All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Adapty podcast. I know it's been a while since you've probably seen a last episode, but my name's Freddie, and I'll be the host of today's today's podcast. And with me, I have Max from Adapty as well. So we're going to go ahead and chop up some of the major things happening in the mobile app industry, and also some recent developments with one of our flagship features under the Adapty product, Autopilot, and it could be a game changer for apps that are running continuous experiments. Because as you know, apps running continuous experiments with their paywalls are making 74% more monthly reoccurring revenue than apps that don't. So clearly, experimentation is a big thing. And so we'll be talking about that today. Most teams know they should test more, but none do. We'll be discussing why and what changes when AI can help close that gap. Max, it's great to have you.
Hey, Freddie. Thank you so much for the introduction, for the opening. Very nice to talk to you finally and really discuss the things that are happening in the mobile apps market nowadays. So, a couple of words about me. I'm Max. I'm 25, now leading the Autopilot product in Adapty, living in Barcelona and doing product stuff for a lot of years, especially in B2B. So, about Adapty, I think everyone knows it, but just briefly, we host 20,000 of mobile apps inside of us, and we really do lots of stuff. It's not only the subscription infrastructure, it's everything. So, our main idea is that when you work with Adapty, you start to really get more revenue and better profits. So that's where we're heading to, and that's what I really want to uncover a bit today. So the thing is that really when apps are going well, everyone is still super focused on usually two things. The first one is the acquisition of users, the marketing and all of that stuff. And then the product itself, the features and the some visual parts of how your app looks like and all of that. And it can give you great metrics, but in the end, there is also a great bunch of uplift that most of the apps are losing if they're not investing into the experimentation. That's why you said it super correct, Freddie, just because really we see lots of companies, lots of apps that are having a dedicated team who are doing just experiments. And by that, they are really getting very, very nice numbers. And that really works well. So it's not only opening some new source of users that are coming to you. It's not like doing TikTok or Facebook ads or something else. It's really just working on how your users get into the app, how they see the paywall, how they pay, and how they return afterwards. So that's very important. And some apps, they just don't do really enough investment in that. And that's the part that I really think is one of the biggest, let's say, the mistakes and the fears at the same moment. Because when I talk with the app owners and ask them, guys, why are you not doing lots of experiments? What's the thing? The answer is that they are just simply usually have a fear of changing prices itself, just because when you have your annual, I don't know, for $60 and it looks very solid, you like how the revenue is going and all of that, you're scared to put it up on 70 or even to 80 just because really you feel that everything is going to crash. But the thing is that it's not that working. And the idea is that you really have to be, having great discipline, the same as in sports or any other direction, right? So the more disciplined you are, the more like consistency you have in the A/B testing, the better results you get. So the real problem, I think, is that sometimes apps they launch an A/B test, changing something in their paywall, and it turns out that the A/B test they launch it lost, and then they think that no, I'm not gonna do any more A/B tests ever just because we lost. But what we see data is that really the more frequently, the more regularly you do it, the more you're winning long time. So that's the idea. And that's what we are trying to push. And that's what we try to really tell the mobile apps that they really have to work on that. It's not that hard, but sometimes it is. And that's why we really at Adapt to try to do everything. So the experimentation process would be just like simple as that. And you just don't need to think about it that much. You can really focus on these two things I mentioned before, but you can really just get uplifts silently while they are just simply doing the experimentation on the side and focusing on what's really important.
Cool. So I want to harp on that for a little while. Subscription apps are largely under monetizing because they're not experimenting enough. You can argue a lot of teams, right? They experiment a lot with their features and things like that, but they're not experimenting enough with their pricing. So I want to talk about what you think teams should be thinking about when wanting to begin experimenting with their pricing structure, and what you think would be some of the biggest levers they can pull, like if they were to listen to this right now.
Yeah, I think that one of the best leverages and the best things to do in the beginning, if you haven't done any pricing tests yet, is to try to change the plan duration, right? So if you have only one duration for some reason, it's pretty rare, but anyways, you should really try out to add more. You should really try out to swap them in between. What I mean is that if you have only, let's say, yearly and monthly, a rare case, but still it's a good idea to try out the yearly and weekly, or even in some particular categories, right? For in health and fitness, for example, yearly is dominating pretty well, while in like utilities or any other, there is like weekly also dominates pretty often. So you have to try to mix them well and try what works very much. Then I would say that the trials are also having a pretty high uplift, and it can really deliver you what's working. You just really need to think about whether it's suitable for your app or not. You got to be careful because you have lots of AI apps inside of Adapty. And if you add a free trial on your AI feature, you can just burn a lot of tokens just because users are going to use it for free. They're going to generate videos, generate photos, or like do any face
Right.
swaps and all that. And you just really simply lose money while this user then cancels the trial and you didn't get any of it. So you got to be careful. So yeah, I think the plan duration, the trials, and then also the locals. So it's working well. If you have enough traffic, if you have enough like coverage of the market, not only the US market, for example, other countries too, it's good to try to localize the prices. It's good to really think on how exactly am I monetizing in the countries and see what's their potential purchasing power, how they operate, right? So it's weird to, for example, put the same prices everywhere. There is countries like as Germany or a country as Brazil, where you can really clearly see the potential opportunity of the market is different, which is why it's important to really localize the prices too. So I would say that these two things connected to the pricing. And then the third is the visuals. It just gives it nice uplift, but it can give you like twice less. So with visuals, you can really get like 34 uplift LTV with the pricing and the duration up to 60. So the difference is big. And really, the biggest wins are usually near the pricing and the monetization.
Got it. And so I know Adapty in their last subscription report, they said weekly plus trial had the highest LTV. What are your thoughts on that? And what should teams do if they hear this stat? Should they immediately implement weekly plus trial? How would you go about experimentation?
You got to be super careful in understanding the user of yours, right? So, as I've said, for example, in health and fitness, most of the revenue comes from the yearly, just because psychologically, user cannot like allow himself not to invest in his health. That's why people are usually buying the yearly subscription, just because it's kind of a commitment for yourself. You don't want to save money on your house. It doesn't mean that they're going to use the app, but anyways, it feels weird psychologically to buy a weekly. While on the
Right.
contrary, right, for any other type, weekly can be a very great deal, right? In any other type of app, for example, even the photography one, if you're not sure whether you're going to use it or not, you can just try the weekly with the trial. You see, okay, I like the filters. I like how it looks like, how it like gives me the opportunity to post something to Instagram. Fine, then I'm going to buy the subscription. So the first and very important is to understand whether are you eligible to do that? Does it even really make sense to go to the weekly plus trial? And if so, then you should really definitely try it out, just because it's usually a great thing. And the second idea here is that it really shows that the market is changing, because like 2 years ago, weekly was popular, but way less popular. Nowadays, it really is just uh, outperforms the weekly in terms of the LTV sometimes. And that's a very interesting and decent result, I think. So really, people are using more apps, downloading more apps. And that's why the thing is that they want to try more. That's why yearly, I think, is just getting less popular, and weekly is pushing well, and trial is also a very great option.
Yeah, I think something that was interesting too. I recently heard one of the heads of optimization at The Economist talk a little bit about their app process. So they stripped away all of their images. They were trying to A/B test different types of paywalls, and they realize, oh, even if we do things like take away the image at the top and just make it all text, we're seeing higher conversions. And they were running every type of paywall structure from monthly plus trial, weekly plus trial, and yearly plus trial. So I think all of that was pretty interesting for them to narrow down to their final paywall, which included a yearly plus trial and then another. I'm honestly blanking if it was weekly plus trial or if it was monthly, but just the amount of experimentation that she talked about doing to get to their final structure. I mean, it just goes to show like you probably do have to experiment quite a little bit to see what you should actually do with your paywall structure.
Yeah, it's very important to make sure that I have enough traffic, honestly, just because I would love to, for every app to do experimentation. But if you have, let's say a couple of thousands of dollars app in months, it's a good result, a very nice result. But it just may take a lot of time to make a proper A/B test, right? Because it's still like a thing that requires some math, and you cannot run an A/B test for 2 days, get, I don't know, 10 subscribers and say that one option really is way better than the second one. So you got to be careful with that. That is an important thing. That's why it kind of like unlocks from a certain period of the amount of revenue you're receiving. But anyways, it's a very nice way to do that. So my idea here is to be careful. If you're a small app, just start it and have a couple of users. I don't think that the A/B testing is something where you're gonna run into at the moment. Just wait a bit until you get bigger, and that is a very important path to go. Just because it can really get not the free money, but you can really like unlock a lot of uplift potential for you.
And I know you've seen thousands of different apps and whatnot. What do you think is the single biggest pricing mistake you see?
Uh, I think it's really the first one is not touching the prices, right? So it's just something that users are usually scared of or not ready to invest into, just because it takes time, and also making visuals is way easier, right? You can cover the buttons, you can like update the background image and all that stuff, and you're ready to go. While with the prices, you really need to do some steps to adjust it. We work on the way that is going to be super easy, and it is already pretty easy that you can push the prices straight from Adapty to the App Store Connect, and it just really doesn't take much time. But anyways, and so that's the first thing, and I think the second thing is not doing it constantly, right? So it's the biggest
Mm.
mistake they're doing. So they did one A/B test or a couple of A/B tests. I had calls with clients and asked them, "When was the last A/B test you did?" And they said that we did all the things. We know the perfect pricing for us and all that. Then I asked them one more time, "When was the last time?" And they were saying like 2 years ago. So the market
Wow.
changed completely. Everything is changed. The competitors are different now. Everything is going into one direction. The durations are changing and all that stuff, but they just have a feeling that everything is set up. And with the experimentation, if you do it constantly, right, if you do monitor it regularly, you would see that there are some new ideas that are uncovered that appeared in the market, and you got to use them. So yeah, you just do it constantly. You have a discipline for that, and then you're really always on track. So the thing is, just to repeat, is that the best way is not to launch one A/B test; it's to launch it constantly, and you will win long run. So it's okay if one A/B test lost, even if two lost. The success rate is usually 50-ish%. So it's totally okay. You just have to be constant, and then you will just receive better results in 6 months and 12 months and all of that.
Mm. So it really is like an experimentation game, but I feel like one of the biggest problems is teams don't necessarily know how to experiment. It can feel like a really big challenge to understand what to do. And so that's why I actually want to focus a little bit about on autopilot. And that's something that you've been working on a lot. Adapt, you've been placing a lot of focus on. So for those of y'all who don't know, autopilot actually goes ahead and analyzes all of your paywalls. It actually has benchmarks attached to your competitors and now even your own cohort data, and finds that pricing mismatches per country, kind of like what you're saying about the localization, and gives you kind of that
Yeah.
growth plan for A/B tests. And so I want to talk to you a little bit more about autopilot, what your thoughts are on it. But if you have any sort of like case study, I think that you think would be great to start off with. I feel like so many companies have had success with autopilot, and just would be good to hear from you about what those successes are.
Yeah, sure. I would say that the idea is really that we have lots of data, which is super important nowadays. Just because you cannot create data with AI, that's a very strength point at the mode. And what do we see? That we really have a lot of knowledge about how to do proper things, how to really like work with the experimentation and make a focus in that. And we just combined this because we knew that really lots of clients, they're not ready to invest much time into the experimentation. So our idea was to provide them a plan on what exactly to do with their app, make it baked by data, and simplify the process that it's just going to be a couple of clicks, and they're just really delegating this process to us. And that's where everyone is happy, and it's kind of like a win-win situation. So regarding the case studies, yeah, we had a nice case, I say, with a team that is having lots of apps. So they're having like in total, they're having around 20 as far as I remember, but they used Autopilot on their top 5. And the thing is that the person, the owner who worked with Autopilot, he is not a marketer. So he really is not a growth manager or a person who knows that much about how to do it properly. But he was a nice developer who's doing great apps and knows great stuff about that. So it was a great fit just because they have lots of
Mm.
apps. They do not have much expertise, and they just really kind of trusted the recommendations that we gave. So in 3 months, they run more than 10 tests, close to 15. And by this discipline, by this step by step flow, they got their MRR rose at almost 30%. So,
Mm.
and the most interesting part, it was a surprise for me that the success rate was pretty high. So 63% of A/B tests, the recommendations of ours won. So it's pretty big. Coming back to what I said regarding that, it's usually like not the 50-50, but you never know what's winning just because the experimentation is the key. In this particular scenario, the success rate was really high. So this is pretty decent result in my opinion. So the thing for this team, for this particular team, was that they knew that this is important, but they never kind of invested a lot of it. And here they had a problem of blank page of what exactly should we do, how should we start this, what should we focus on, and that's where Autopilot really came and just give them the list of ideas, guys. You gotta increase the price, you gotta remove this duration, you gotta try out the trial, and by doing these steps, they got the results they got. So I think that it's a very great case just because when you have lots of apps, it's very hard to manage all of it. You either
Right.
hire more people, either you just don't have enough focus. And here it was like a super nice connection between the problem and the solution. I think that's why the idea is that Autopilot is kind of like really your assistant, your growth manager in the pocket where you can really get the personalized recommendations for every of your app. It's not like everyone should increase prices or everyone should try out the trial. It's more about for this particular app, you got to try ABC. And for the other app, you got to try the DEF and all that stuff, So I think that's like the PowerPoint of it. And that's the strengths of why it really can help mobile app owners to scale and to get better results.
I think one of the coolest things about Autopilot too is like for a long time, a bunch of players have come into the mobile apps industry as the infrastructure layer. And it's always been, okay, after infrastructure, what's next? How can we almost, in a way, even though it's a software product, become a partner of the companies, whether that's in the form of, intelligence or, that's in the form of being almost like a strategist for them. And I think Autopilot's a great example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think nowadays, just because it's very hard to surprise someone with a product in terms of like the features themselves, data is something that really can be as a great advantage of yours. And that's why we're trying to go into this direction to really unveil it and not only provide you the data, right, that you can see all the benchmarks in the world, but really to make it actionable, that you can understand where you stand against the market, where are your pain points, where are you doing well, for example. It's also very important. Some of the mobile app owners I talk with, they're very happy to see that they are in the benchmark, right, that they understand that in the market where they are operating, they're doing good. They have some potential to improve, but they are doing good, and it also gives you like great energy and great like feeling that you're really in the right direction.
I had a question for you around Autopilot. So, for the Adapty product, we have a bunch of different types of customers, everything from independent developer all the way up to enterprise teams. Do you have any thoughts on the ways that each one of these like major customer archetypes uses autopilot, from like someone who is, a single developer, one person team, to someone that's operating in like an actual team, with multiple people.
Yeah, I would say that for a solo builder, it's a great product if you're on a decent level of revenue. As I've said before, right? You have to do some great amounts of revenue. I would say at least 5,000 per month, so you can really get the enough data for making a proper A/B test. So if you're on that level and above, then you can really try to go and get the ideas of what you should try and do. And when you don't have that much data, it's very important to make a high impacting A/B tests, right? So it's not changing one word on the paywall or changing the color of the button. It's to do really kind of like high risks moves. Try to increase the price significantly, or maybe to really restructure the whole duration setup, or maybe adding some trial, like 7 days trial, if it's operating well in your market. So doing some big things. If you're if you're like an app a company which has many apps, I think, yeah, this case we've covered a bit. So you can really, uh, you just cannot properly focus. That's why you can really get the ideas from the autopilot, and you can understand where exactly you should go. You just pick the ideas you like, you launch them, and you see the result. And if we talk about the big apps, the solo apps, right? Some super uh, big apps which are doing lots of, let's say, hundreds of thousands of revenue. In this particular case, I would say that the best use case is to have the market intelligence, so they can see where they are standing, what the competitors are doing, where am I in the market, which ideas you're providing to me, and what should I do. Just because such teams, they usually have tried more or less everything, just because they have smart teams which are really knowing what they're doing. And usually in this particular case, we just couple of recommendations are hitting them, not all of them. While if the app hasn't done anything before, it's way easier, of course, to provide them a proper plan. So I would say that these three buckets are the like having these use cases and are the best fit.
It's really cool how autopilot can have a different sort of purpose for each different customer archetype. And so, with that in mind, I want to talk about where you think it's headed, right? I think we're pushing a lot of different updates for autopilot, but what do you think about what might be next and what, the story might be for this product?
Yeah, I see that the market and the all like SaaS businesses going into from just being a tool into an assistant and then to an agent. And we're now in the assistant phase where we really analyze what's happening. We really tell you the ideas of what you should try out with the country pricing, with the regular pricing, with the visual ideas. We just cover the main parts of what the growth manager does. But you still have to, allocate resources to run this yourself. And the next part we'll be going this year is really to go into the agent mode, just where we can really do most of the stuff for you. So we, of course, plan to kind of like touch with the user and double check whether the idea of ours is something that he also agrees with, that he approves this idea. But anyways, the execution of creating the paywall, running the A/B test, and even finishing the A/B test, and even starting the next one can be done on our side without even touching it. So that's the idea where we are going to. But before that, we're now on the assistant phase where we want to make sure that the quality of recommendations from the highest level, that we really hitting the market the way the market wants it to see, and then we go into the automatization part. So I would say that this is kind of like the way we are going to. So we want to give better quality of recommendations. We got to capture more context of the whole app, right? So we'll understand what the app is about even better, to understand how it's structured and what's inside of this app, and give you the recommendations, the pricing, the recommendation about all of the main parts inside of this app. So we're just going to be smarter, wider, and more intelligent in terms of what we are doing. And then you can really kind of like delegate this process to us with just setting the rules of what you want to do.
I think that's really important and fundamental, right? Like as a lot of companies and people are starting to use agentic tools to almost run all parts and divisions of their company, it's like how can Adapty plug into that? And so as we shift more over into agentic automated system, how does where do humans play their role? Where does the founder play the roles or their marketing teams, things like that?
Yeah, I would say that the role is still crucial. So, I mean, 2 years ago, when the AI was in the beginning of its booming process, or even already in the highest peak of it, we thought that we were going to be replaced by AI, right? Everyone is thinking that we're doomed and everything is going into the bad direction. But now, what I see is that we can still think like that, but it turns out that most likely AI is going to be your assistant. The AI is going to be the person just like not the person, but the product that makes you more efficient, right? So in this particular case, I think that it's still very important to humans to check what's being offered, just because imagine you have lots of revenue coming from your app, everything is good, and then AI, without your permission, changes the price on some different level, which is not applicable because we just the AI just didn't know something, right? And the revenue drops. Everyone isn't happy. Everyone is not knowing what's happening, and it's just a bad case. So I think that it's very important to double check with the user regarding to get the approval or to get the correction of what's going on. Just because we had cases, as I've said, for example, with the AI apps, you recommend the trial for an AI app. It may be a good idea on paper, but in real life, as I've said, you can really just get a very lot of money spent on the tokens for such users. So you have to double check with the owners or with the growth managers who are working in these apps and these companies, and they just spend 5 seconds. They click that everything is good, and then the process starts. But if you fully delegate everything to AI, I don't think that it's a very good idea. It always has to be like process in the parallel. So that's the best case.
Mm. I think that's really important, right? At the end of the day, the human oversight is going to be really important. Our job is to aggregate as much data as possible and then obviously make sure that at the assistant level where we are right now, that we're able to provide the best recommendations possible. But I will say, like, we have such a strong data moat. We over 20,000 apps using the Adapty product and a lot of different data pieces to pull from. Is there anything that you see that would be a particular insight for any team about the way that our product with the data moat and why that's really important in today's age?
I would say that really the apps is something that you can do overnight today. There are even the vibe coding tools for making apps in particular, and they're working very well. And I would say that if you're new into this market, or even if you're an experienced one, it's still request to have something to stand on, right? And I think that data is something that can really give you this feeling that you can understand that you're going into the correct direction, that you're not doing something that it's not on the market. Just because, of course, you can do everything manually. You can check how things are being done on the competitor's side, what's being popular in some researches, and maybe in some Twitter posts and all that. But eventually I think that the data is something that really the aggregated data is something that really gives you like trust and gives you the feeling that you're understanding what you're doing. So everyone is going into this direction, every big company which has lots of data, and I think that's the right way to go, right? Just because if you have lots of information, it's very weird not to use it, just because people, they don't want to have functions anymore. They want to have solutions, or at least ideas. And
Yeah.
that's why I think data is the best fuel for that. And that's why, in particular, we're going into this direction.
And I think at the end of the day, right, like people that want to go ahead and improve their paywalls, teams that want to go ahead and make more revenue in 2026, right? Like you need to have the analysis, the benchmarks, and kind of the plan slash strategy. And that's where autopilot really comes in.
Yeah, just because really you can, every AI feature I think can be replicated, just because most of the companies are using the same models, and they just wrap it their own way and all that stuff. But as I've said, data is something that you cannot come up with, or you cannot Google it, and that's the big advantage and the very like big and important point of that.
So I gotta ask, based on what you can share, what's something autopilot will be able to do in the future that right now it can't?
I would say that it's kind of what I've touched already. I would say that it's the uh, opportunity to really have the loop closed, right? So it's not only the recommendations you're receiving, it's that all the recommendations you're receiving can be launched like really one click and they're like starting straight away. And then that these A/B tests that are running are going to be stopped when there is enough data, there is enough traffic, and the next recommendation is going to come up to you. And even this next recommendation can be also launched automatically. So you can really create some kind of like a sequence of A/B testing, and you can just simply go and focus on other things while this machine has been spinning. So that's where we're going to, and that's what we want to do. So not only the smart recommendations, but also improving the execution of it to make it very, very cheap to start. Just because some fears of the experimentation from users that I hear is that really it's pretty expensive to work on the experimentations. You really need to do a lot of preparation, and that's where we want to help mobile apps with. We do the paywall, we do the pricing, we create the products, we just run the test, we stop the test, we tell you the result, we give you the idea on what to do next. So you just simply either agree with us or disagree. And if you disagree, we give you the next idea of what's going to happen.
And I just feel like for app teams and whatnot, just being able to have that full loop is so, so, so helpful so that you don't have to actually start, you don't have to guess, and you can get the best in class information readily at your disposal.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. So I think it's not, I don't see it the way that it totally, removes the people. As I've said, it really has to be just in parallel, but it can really make you way more efficient. You can focus on other things. And here we're just going to like handle the rest of it.
And you've been in the mobile app industry for a while, several different years now. How have you seen the industry change, and what gets you excited about staying in the industry?
So I would say it's the pace and the way that everyone can do apps at the moment. And that really, I think that it's the taste that really drives cool apps up front. So if you have, I don't know, just a copy pasted app, you can get a decent result for sure. But sometimes you just see this, gold nuggets, these apps that looks that good that you cannot miss them. You just, maybe you even don't need this feature they're offering, but you just want to download it and see how it looks it good. And I would say that really, I just like this competition that is happening, that it's very hard to win customers. It's very hard to get the sources of where they're coming from. So everyone is trying new ways. Everyone is experimenting in terms of the approaches. And also there are those who are having very great taste and they're really getting, some very nice results. They're like winning, apples a days or something like that. And I just really enjoy seeing how the market evolves and the new ideas of apps. I don't know, let's say doc translator apps, or the I saw an app where which helps you to create a focus mode while you're flying on the plane, so you can really
Mm.
create a plan of what you have to do while you're flying. And it looks so nice. I mean, I wouldn't come up with that. It's impossible, but they did it that well that it really looks very nice. And I even downloaded it. So I just enjoy the energies that it's happening, and I think it's very not easy market at the moment. There is like lots of apps are being created every minute, but still it's something very interesting to watch. And there is also lots of things happening in terms of the technical side, in terms of the changes on the Apple side, or with the market itself, the new like web funnels and all of that. So it's just like a very nice market, and I think that in the future, everything is going to end up with the thing that we are either using our phones to do everything and we don't type anymore. Either we're going to have, some devices which are like being held on us and we just talk to them and they respond to us back. So I think everything comes to a very simple way to input information to gather it back. And mobile phones looks like the best way for it. So I think that this market is going to be even more interesting in the nearest years.
I've always been enamored by the mobile app market because at the end of the day, it's one of the very few industries that lives in people's pockets, right? Like people interact with apps every single day. Now that everyone can build the apps too, I mean, anyone can basically build a business with just their laptop or their phone. And I think just that in and of itself makes apps such a great opportunity for people to at least start with. And you don't even necessarily have to monetize, just do it, build the project. But your project actually can, if you follow the right protocols, whether that's in your onboarding or doing things like experimentation, your app can legitimately earn revenue that can, do real good things for your business. And that's what I really enjoy is like now everyone has the potential to make apps that do well. And it's just a matter of how can we continue to educate people more on, best practices so that they actually do it.
Yeah, I think that really it's kind of like a mission of such companies as Adapty to really like spread the view of how it should be done and to really share the best, even either the practices, either the ideas, so everyone can really like create their dreams. And if everything goes well, make money. So I think that's the best combination, really.
Amazing. I mean, this has been a great time, Max, talking to you about the mobile apps, autopilot, and your thoughts on things of the sort. Where can they go ahead and find you?
Uh, I usually use LinkedIn. You can call me old school, but still, I'm a LinkedIn fan. Yeah, X is something that I usually go into, but not that often. So yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I think it's the best way. And go to the Adapty Autopilot is open for everyone who is using Adapty. So go try and tell me the feedback or the Freddy. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, if you enjoyed hearing Max talk about the mobile app industry and his thoughts about building Autopilot, go ahead and give him a follow or connect with him on LinkedIn. And if you enjoyed this episode of the Adapty podcast, we're bringing it back. So go ahead and show us some love. We want to go ahead and give you the best in class information, best in class value, and guests so that you can continue to build mobile apps effectively. So more on that to come. We appreciate you so much. Hit the like and comment button on YouTube. And for those listening on platform like Spotify, we appreciate you. And stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks again, Max.
Thanks, Freddy. See you.
All right. See you.